Being professional means not giving blatantly misleading statements on the media about this specific council.
Boom.
To be spending millions of pounds or hundreds of thousands.
Wow, did you see her sigh there? Hello, my friends. Now, did our Nigel Farage tell a barefaced lie again? Shocker. Well, during a council meeting for the Warwickshire County Council on financial monitoring on the 4th of September 2025, Councillor David Curtis asked the leader of the council reforms, George Finch, to call out his boss, Nigel Farage, about a barefaced lie he told about the county council he represents, and Councillor Curtis came with receipts. Now, did our straight shooter George Finch call out Farage, or did he fold like a cheap suit and crumble? I'll let you decide.
So, the leader of Reform UK stated of this council on BBC television, "They don't want to show us the books. We ask where the money has been spent. Can we see the credit card statements? We've found genuine, deliberate obstructionism." Following a Freedom of Information request, which asked which Reform councillors have asked to view council financial accounts, books, records and credit card receipts, the response was no requests had been made for this information.
How interesting.
So, the leader states that his main principles are integrity, honesty and respect. Given these principles, will the leader and the portfolio holder now publicly dissociate themselves from this statement, this inflammatory and divisive statement from the leader of Reform UK, which yet again appears to have no basis in reality?
Thank you, Councillor Curtis, for that.
And how do you think he will call out Nigel Farage lie, or will he fold like a cheap suit and waffle?
That question, just to clarify, by the leader of Reform UK, you mean Nigel Farage?
Well, who else you tit?
Okay, fine. So to answer your question is that, yes, councillors across the country, not just in Warwickshire, have been speaking to officers, and when questions have been asked, some of us have felt, and across the country as well, because I speak to a lot of councillors, is that there has been some certain information that necessarily we've asked for that we haven't necessarily got, and then we've had to work forward to get. But at the moment in time, working with officers here, we've actually found a best way to move forward, especially with recalibrating Warwickshire. We work with officers to get that through, especially on a short time scale, but we got it.
Clearly answering another question, a totally different question to the one that Councillor Curtis asked. He asked you, are you going to denounce what your leader said? And all we were getting is waffle, innit?
Through, we got it sorted, and I thank all the officers for making that happen. And yes, there has been hurdles, growing pains, like in every walk of life, going into a new place, new ideas. What we thought before we got in, and what we do now is, yes, there are going to be clashing of heads, but we are working through that and working together to make sure there's a better deal for Warwickshire. And we work with all the officers, and we thank them all for what they do and help us with. So yeah, there are growing pains, there are clashes day one when you get into places, but you solve that and you work forward, because you have to realise, again, like I've said before, it's not about me, it's not about the other councillors, it's about the people out there that we're there to represent. So you do have to be professional in the way you work. And make
it's rich coming from you lot.
We have to make sure that the people out there, like children with SEND needs, homeschool transport, adult social care, that all still has to run. So if there's disagreements, it's not the end of the world. People have to grow up and realise it's not about us, it's about the people out there.
Being professional means not giving blatantly misleading statements on the media about this specific council.
Boom. Absolutely spot on. Yeah, you absolutely spot on. If you're going to give misleading information about a certain council that is clearly not true, that's not being professional, is it? now, wait till this, what he says now. This is just hilarious.
I don't think that it's been misleading at all. I think at the get-go there were, and we did feel that there was some obstructions and
Did you see her face then? Did you see her face then? Where her eyes looked around when he said that. Her face was really telling. I've just noticed that now.
But that's the point that I made before, is that happens. We've worked through that. We're actually working really well with officers to find out a better deal for Warwickshire, value for money, the recalibrating Warwickshire. Yes, growing pains happen. It's life. But we are working with officers and we're doing a really good job to make sure that we have a better deal for Warwickshire. And I think the obsession that you're making about headlines, that is exactly what they are, headlines, and that's not going to help the people on the ground, is it? But that's why we're moving forward, working on through the council. We've only been here a few months, but we are every day, our feet are under the table. We're growing, we're learning, we're finding out more stuff. We're looking into the books to find out where there's been wasteful spending, if so, what we deem to be wasteful spending, especially net zero. Agendas and DEI. We believe that we can really, we're not at that luxury at the moment to be spending millions of pounds or hundreds of thousands.
Wow, did you see her sigh there? She thinks this clown is an absolute complete barncake. That sigh was very telling, wasn't it? Wow.
Of pounds on these things. We have to prioritise people with SEND needs, adult social care. They're the priorities that we need to put forward at the moment. So thank you for your question. Is there any more questions?
Wow, her face was very telling, wasn't it? I'd not picked that up until just watching it again, her face just painted 1,000 words, didn't they? Well, spoke 1,000 words, you could say. So when George Finch said that reform councillors have been asking for information and they've not received it, is he calling Councillor Curtis a liar, or those who gave him the information as liars? Also, would he actually know that reform councillors up and down the country have been asking for this information, or is he just telling porkies about this? I'm just asking questions, Nigel. So yes, our straight-talking George Finch, who calls cycle lanes bogus, fell apart like a cheap suit, didn't he? Couldn't bring himself to criticise the cult leader of Farage PLC. And Councillor Curtis was bang on the money, wasn't he, when he said that being professional means not giving out misleading information, and Finch's reply was pathetic, wasn't it? Oh, they're just headlines, forget about it. Yeah, but the thing is, headlines only give a snippet of a story, and all the people need to do is just walk past the billboard, or maybe look on their phone and see a headline online, and people have made up their minds already, and they haven't even read the story. So that is just biggest load of rump and nonsense. But her face was an absolute picture, wasn't it, when he went through his waffle and bollocks. But what do you guys think? George Finch fell apart like a cheap suit and looked like an utter clown? Let me know down below, and I shall bid you farewell and take care, my friends.